Hi, it's Alaska Granny. I wanted to share some information with you today about hurricane preparedness. If you live anywhere near any coastline in the United States, you need to be prepared for the possibility of hurricanes. Did you realize that hurricane season runs from May until November? That is a lot of months that you could be at risk and not be prepared. So the first thing you should do is gather information and figure out, what are the risks where you live? Could they be from flooding? Could it be from high winds or storm surges? You don't have to live right at the beach for these to be an issue. Tremendous amounts of rain and heavy winds can go for thousands of miles after a hurricane hits land. The next thing you should gather is supplies. Make sure you have fresh drinking water on hand. The recommendation is 1 gallon per person per day for a minimum of 3 days. Then you should also have food for several days. I don't know about you, but I have seen on the news when hurricanes happen, and after the fact, it was a long time for some people before any help arrived. I think I would want more days than 3 so that I wouldn't have to be going out into the streets trying to find things when there's been a terrible storm. Then make sure you have things like communication. Do you have a wind-up or a battery radio and some way to refresh the batteries? Also make sure you have flashlights. You need to have first aid supplies, and if you need any prescription medication, make sure you have extras of that. A good thing to have during an emergency is a whistle, so that if you are trapped or lost or something, you have something to blow, and so that's something you should have on hand. What if your home was damaged? Will you have some supplies to shelter in place, plastic, tape, things like that, to repair any wind damage and rain leakage? Think about sanitation supplies and a few toiletries. Know how to turn off your utilities and have the tools that you would need to do that. Make sure you have supplies for your pets, some cash on hand, and current maps in case you need to evacuate. Have a folder of all your important documents, including your identification, bank accounts, insurance, all of those important things. Make sure you have sleeping bags, a change of clothes. Don't forget paper plates and a manual can opener. Next, you need to gather a plan. You need to decide, when would I evacuate? Where would I go? How would I get there? What will I do once I arrive? And when is the right time to leave? Don't be the last one out of your area if an evacuation order has been made. You don't want to be stuck in a line of traffic or behind people who've run out of gas or caught in a storm that arrived too soon. Make sure you have a plan and then be prudent about your safety and evacuate when it's necessary. Avoid flooded roads and never walk through moving water. If you do have pets, please make certain your pet has identification on them so that if they should become lost or separated, the chances of them getting reunited with you are much greater. Take the time to make an emergency kit and prepare for a hurricane. And if you plan on traveling, pay attention to which areas are at risk for hurricanes. I've traveled places and I never even thought about it, and all of a sudden I was in the tail end of a hurricane with terrible winds and 6 and 8 inches of rain overnight. It was something I was completely unprepared for and had never experienced before. So keep aware of what's going on wherever you are and any place that you might be traveling to. Learn more at alaskagranny.com. And please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.